The morning my father read his own will out loud, I watched the woman sitting next to him smile. Not a sad smile, not a nervous one. It was slow and quiet and satisfied. The kind of smile that tells you someone has been waiting for this moment for a very long time. That was the day I understood. Everything I thought I knew about my own family was a lie. My name is Lila. I'm 31 years old, and I grew up believing that love was the one thing no one could ever take from you. My mother passed away when I was 9. Cancer. It was fast and it was brutal, and it left behind a little girl who cried herself to sleep for years, and a father who eventually stopped sleeping in the same house altogether. Dad was broken after losing her. I understood that. I never blamed him for it. I just quietly grew up, holding on to the memory of my mom like it was the last warm thing in the world. Then, when I was 14, she arrived. Sandra. She came in like spring, soft, gentle, full of light. She brought home-cooked meals and long hugs and told me I could talk to her about anything. She said she wasn't trying to replace my mother. She just wanted to be my friend. And I believed her. That was my first mistake. For years, I told myself Sandra was good for my dad. She made him laugh again. She filled the silence in our house with something warmer than grief. And even when I noticed the small things, the way she'd change the subject whenever I brought up Mom, the way she'd rearrange things in my mother's old room without asking, I pushed it down. I told myself I was being too sensitive, too protective, too suspicious. I was wrong to doubt her. That's what I told myself. But here's what I didn't know then. While I was sitting in college lectures, building a life, trusting that home was still home, the lawyer's name was Mr. Holt. He spoke in careful, measured sentences, like he was reading from a script. He explained that my father had revised his will, his estate, his savings, the house I grew up in, and that the revisions were significant. Nearly everything had been redirected to Sandra. I sat there, completely still. I wasn't even angry yet. I was just confused, like the room had tilted slightly and I was waiting for it to correct itself. "Dad," I said quietly, "did you want this?" He opened his mouth, and Sandra put her hand on his arm. "Lila," she said, in that careful, practiced voice, "your father and I have talked about this a great deal. We think this is what's best for everyone. For the family." For the family. I almost laughed. I looked at my dad, my real dad, the man who used to read me stories, who cried at my graduation, who once drove 4 hours in the rain just because I called him and sounded sad. And I watched him look away from me. That was the moment something broke inside me. Not loudly, quietly, like glass cracking in cold weather. Over the next few weeks, I tried to talk to him. I called, I wrote letters, I showed up at the house. But every time Sandra was there, orbiting him, answering for him, steering every conversation away from anything real. And then the rumors got worse. My aunt called me, her voice tight with discomfort, to tell me that Sandra had been telling people, family, friends, neighbors, even my dad's doctor, that I had become erratic, that I had shown up at the house in a disturbed state, that I had threatened her. None of it was true, not a single word, but she was saying it with such calm, consistent certainty that people were starting to believe her. I felt the ground disappearing beneath my feet because I understood what she was doing. She wasn't just taking the house. She was taking something much harder to recover. My credibility, my reputation, my father's trust in me. One evening, I sat. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood panels, fluorescent lighting, rows of plastic chairs. It smelled like old paper and someone's bad coffee. Sandra arrived in a muted gray blazer, hair pinned neatly, expression composed. She looked like the picture of reasonableness. She looked like someone who was doing a very sad, very responsible thing. I wore my mother's watch. I don't know exactly why. It just felt right, like she deserved to be in that room. Sandra's lawyer called her to the stand first. She spoke quietly, carefully. She described me as volatile, paranoid. She painted a portrait of a grieving young woman who had never healed, who had grown obsessive and threatening, who couldn't be trusted around a vulnerable man. She cried at one point, just briefly, just enough. And I sat there, watching her perform, feeling something I didn't expect. Calm. Because I knew what was coming. Miss Chen began her cross-examination quietly. She thanked Sandra for her testimony.